Greetings, beautiful beings. I want to welcome you to the Power of Attunement channel. If this is your first time here, big welcome, big love. And if you're returning, so grateful. Thank you for your support in this channel. What we are all about here is bringing attunement to the world. Our mission here is the spiritual regeneration of humanity. If you're interested in this, I'm going to invite you to like, to subscribe, and to be with us on this journey. So my name is Sece Foster. I'm actually an attunement practitioner. I am an attunement teacher and program director at the Sunrise Ranch School of Attunement. I help to direct our attunement trainings and our internship program here. Today I want to talk about something that came up in one of our attunement services. So we have attunement services on Sundays and Wednesday nights. And this topic came up and it felt so important to visit it, talk about it, and reveal some of the remedies to this topic. It is an epidemic of loneliness that is happening in our world. You can Google the phrase epidemic of loneliness and find all kinds of amazing information about what is happening in our culture. And from a spirit, I want to talk about the remedy of this from a spiritual level and kind of paint the picture of how when we address this from this place first and see how the unfoldment happens. I'm going to share my own story of that and bring encouragement for any one of you who might be dealing with that. This feeling of loneliness, this feeling of isolation that brings so many things into our human experience. It brings anxiety, depression. It brings health issues, cardiovascular problems, all kinds of things that happen for us physically, because the reality is that everything begins to manifest first in the invisible, vibrationally. Our thoughts, our feelings, and either our lack of connection to the source of being or our attunement with the source of being, all of it impacts how our bodies are functioning in this world. So on the level of loneliness, first I want to talk about my own spiritual journey with this. I remember in my 20s, I had such a difficulty in being alone. I kept myself busy. I partied. I was a weekend warrior. Sometimes maybe a couple times during the week. I was always around people, right? I loved being with the people I worked with, and I had friends. So there was this human interaction that was happening in my life. And there was this other thing happening for me that made it difficult to be alone. Like when I was alone for any length of time, I felt completely lonely and completely out of sorts, and went about the business of trying to find someone to connect with. So on some level, our society, our culture is pointing to a real situation where people truly aren't connecting with each other. They're maybe on their electronics too much, or they're just isolating themselves. So that's one thing. But the reality is the cure, the remedy, to that feeling of loneliness, that feeling of desperation, definitely it requires us to be in connection with others. But what I know from my own experience is that my orientation to the source of being, call it God, call it spirit, call it love, call it the Great Mother, call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a source of being. It's being. It's the I am presence. My connection with that and communion with that power, that presence, has virtually obliterated this sense of loneliness, this sense of not belonging in my life. And because I've witnessed this same sort of healing over and over and over again, I know this to be true in myself. So I want to talk about this and talk about some of the spiritual principles involved in this, and show how when we get oriented accurately, that then we can create space for this deeper and deeper connection with others. So in the practice of attunement, There is this, as a attunement practitioner, it is vital that we make our connection to that source and that we come into proper polarity. You've probably heard of polarity. We've mentioned it a few times on this channel. It's, there's a lot of people that talk about it in spiritual circles. So when we think of polarity so let's take two batteries, right? So we all know that a battery has a positive side and a negative side, right? And when we try to take two positive sides and put them together, they repel, right? And when we take a positive side and put it against a negative side, there's an attraction. There's a magnetic pull. And so when it comes to the source of being, humanity as a whole has been out of polarity, what is the accurate polarity for our relationship with the source of being? We, as humanity, are supposed to be in what's called the negative polarity. So again, we're looking at it from magnetics standpoint. We are supposed to be open and in a receptive place to that positive polarity of the higher frequencies of source. So when we're open to it, when we allow that to truly penetrate into our heart and our mind, in our body, when we come into accurate orientation and the correct polarity, this is where the healing starts to happen. We don't have to do the healing. We let the healing happen. We let it happen because this is how we are truly made like this. In the practice of attunement, we've talked about this on other videos, is the 7 spiritual gateways that are in our bodies. So like when we do the energy medicine practice of attunement, this helps to move us in our thoughts and feelings in ways that assist us in coming into this true polarity with the source of being. And so in my own experience of this, and in my, up until I'd say like 2011, I struggled with this. There were times in life where I had good friendships and felt some fulfillment with my connections with others. But at the same time, there was this feeling inside that was uncomfortable, of like there was something more. Like I had a hard time being alone and would keep myself so busy and so active socially to avoid that feeling of aloneness. And so here in our culture now, many people are isolating. And so if we do not have some sort of connection with the source of being, if we do not have connection with our higher self, if we do not have a connection with our soul family, and this includes our ancestors, if we are not in touch with what is sacred and true in this life, it is a lonely and difficult experience. In 2011, my life had got to a place where I was so desperate to heal this feeling of separation, this feeling of not knowing the truth of my being. I mean, I knew it intellectually. I read all kinds of books, but inside, I didn't feel it was true. Inside, there was a sense of unworthiness. There was a sense of fear in like really living into my potential. And so I played small. And what that did for me is it wasn't on a conscious level, but subconsciously that brought up shame, because we all were designed uniquely to bring a certain gift to this life. And inside we know it. we may not be able to name it, but we feel it in the emotional body. We feel it when we are not living into our true, authentic self. And so in 2011, for me, I just had enough. What I considered a desperate measure was to go and join a religious organization. It wasn't really religious. I would say more of a spiritual organization. It was the Centers for Spiritual Living. So I began to, take classes and occasionally go to a service. But I started to connect with people. I started to soften my heart. I started to open to these higher energies. And I'm going to fast forward to here we are in 2023. Oh my gosh, I feel so liberated from that state of being that I experienced so much as I was growing up in my 20s and my 30s into my 40s. It's like, I had a good life, made lots of money, had a wonderful marriage, had loving family, yet there was this lack of fulfillment. So fast forward to my time here practicing attunement, what I've noticed in that is like there's been this accelerated deepening, this greater knowing of orientation of like what my true position is, of being open, being that receptive space for the power of love, the power of truth, the power of life to come into me and express through me. So what I know from my own experience is as I've done this, any sense of loneliness is so far removed from my experience. I love my alone time. I love it. Because in that alone time, I have this experience of connection with the source of my being and with myself, my true self. Like I get to just be in that space and it's amazing, right? And so for the people who are working with this experience of loneliness, I definitely would encourage a meditation practice. I would encourage conscious practices of opening to self-love, to opening to love, to opening the heart, taking action into connecting with others, starting small. Because I know sometimes when we're feeling lonely, when we're feeling separate, when we're feeling unworthy, like we don't matter, it's hard, right? It's hard to connect because we feel so small and unworthy. And I just want to remind you all, if you're tuning in, if you happen to be having this experience, you are a unique individualization of the divine presence. You are whole, beautiful, perfect. The true self that you are is that. And I want to encourage you to remember this truth for yourself, to remember that we are unique expressions of the universe. And we're here to be the light, the love. We're here to live life. We're here to bring joy. We're here to experience joy. We're here to be together. Recently, we talked in our attunement services about soul family. The reality is that we are connected to everything. In indigenous cultures, they talk about nature, like brother bear, father sky, mother moon. In those indigenous cultures, they were able to tune in and recognize that all life is family, right? So that's one aspect. And then they also saw that our ancestors, even though they weren't in the physical anymore, that there was this ongoing connection to our ancestors. Now, here in our Western culture, we have lost a lot of that primal knowing. And so that's part of the cause, is like we've lost our, we've forgotten like that we're connected to it all, that we are a part of it all, that we have a part to play in this eternal dance of life. And so when we've forgotten and we are out of orientation, when we are out of attunement with that reality, of course, loneliness can set in. And what I know about this is like when we first address this inner part by opening, by doing our healing work through prayer, through meditation, through mindfulness practice, through speaking our word with integrity, being impeccable with how we are speaking. Because as we speak about ourselves and others, it is vibrationally creating, right? So as we begin these practices of being mindful, speaking impeccably about ourselves and others, as we start this journey of opening and orienting in the accurate way of being open to the source of all creation, being open to love and letting it in, letting it move through us, letting these higher frequencies and energies do their work, then something amazing happens. This experience of loneliness dissipates, it dissolves. We become more and more able to connect in an authentic way with others, whether it's our family, our spouse, a stranger on the street, because we're love. We start to identify as that love. So this is such a crucial thing in this life. Right now on this planet, we are attempting to move into a higher density of vibration, to move from where we are, feeling this sense of separation, into this more heart-centered way of being and knowing our connection to it all, knowing our connection to each other, knowing our connection to all of our ancestors, knowing our connection with the infinite. This is so vital. This is truly the remedy in and of itself, is coming into true and accurate orientation. Everything else that we try is a remedy. We're trying to find something outside ourselves. Like, hey, I'm lonely. I'm going to join a club. I'm going to do this. It's like, you know what? For a while, that might help, right? Because we're meant to be together. So it does feel good. But I just want to bring this reality to everyone who's tuning into this, is like, it's only temporary. All these fixes that we are attempting to bring to this epidemic of loneliness, they can help. But for how long? The true healing, the true remedy is within each of us individually, and then letting the light that we are, letting the truth of us actually move out into the world, to be our true selves, to tune in to the highest love and the highest truth that is constantly pouring from universal love into us. And to the degree that we allow it, to the degree that we let it, and as we do it consistently, this power brings the healing. Okay? And so in that, I just want to remind you all to be patient. There's so many things that can happen like right now, right? But it has been my experience, and it has been my experience of being a witness to others on their journey, is that there is this continual ascension. And we may circle back around to some of those same things that we work with. We may circle back around to feeling some loneliness, but it's maybe at a higher, we're not quite as lonely as we used to be. So to be patient with yourself and to continue just to orient, to put yourself right back, to remind yourself, okay, this is my signal. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. Sort of uncomfortable feeling, to listen to the feeling and orient yourself back to love, to be the negative pole, right? Be that receptive pole so that the power of love can do its work. So that's what I wanted to bring today. I hope you found it useful and inspiring, and then on some level it served you. If it did, I'm going to invite you again to like and to subscribe if this is your first time here. Please look in the links below. We have an amazing online community. If you are feeling lonely and you do feel like you want to be around some higher vibration people, I just want to welcome you. Please join. Find ways to interact and connect and be uplifted and open to these higher vibrations of love. We belong together. We are all soul family. Certainly, there are other members of the soul family who are a little closer, a little bit more in our life experience. But truly, we're all connected. We're all family, all of us. So thank you so much for listening today. Be blessed. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a beautiful week. We'll see you soon.